Hi, everybody. We're live ahead of the sprint race for the Miami Grand Prix. Strap yourselves in because this is going to be a very hectic hour. We've got a lot of people juggling whether or not they want to use the Limitless chip. If you go with a non-Limitless weekend, because like Terry, you've already used your Limitless chips. You're nice and relaxed this weekend. What lineups are best for teams like you? Zach and Terry, I'm nervous about this hour. I don't know how it's going to end up.
I'll let Zach go first because I'm just sitting back sipping my coffee after my chip last week. I don't understand the stress here.
So Limitless is still a go for me. I'm pretty settled-ish on exactly what I'm going to play there. Obviously, it is just scary because of DNFs and DSQs roaming about. Anything could happen, but I've stuck my mind to it and I've gone, this is happening. And to be fair, if we get any surprises, it could work out brilliantly. So that's what I'm hoping for, at least.
I'm jealous of Pax in the chat. Looks like they've already cracked a cold one. Maybe I should have brought a beer to the show. That would have cooled me off a little bit.
Absolutely.
Terry, so like I mentioned at the top of the show, you used your Limitless chip at Jeddah. How are you feeling for this week? Obviously a lot more relaxed, but what are you leaning toward in terms of lineup options?
A very small tweak and a bit more budget building, if I'm honest. I played it the last time out to, pretty much good advantage. It worked well for me, so I'm happy with it. So all what I'm doing now is keeping in touch and just gaining a bit of budget back so that I can hopefully keep on moving at the table. I realise that my lofty heights are going to come crashing down when everyone else plays the chip. So I'm just enjoying being out there now, to be honest.
Got our friends starting to cycle in through the chat. Good morning, Brian. Hi, Mike. Blake in the top 1,000 in the world. Congratulations to you, Blake. Looks like we've got a good group here. Hakan's back. George is back. Stickman's back. Welcome, everybody.
See, George is like me. Look, George used Limitless in Saudi as well. No more pressure. Absolutely, George.
Lucky you two.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to fire up the sprint quali classification? And we can talk a little bit about what a little bit later on is going to look like today. Who are some of the risers and fallers that we predict for the sprint race? Obviously, the big story coming out of this is Kimi Antonelli became the youngest driver to achieve a pole in any format, beating Sebastian Vettel's record. Obviously, he's going to be a very popular choice for this week, particularly for Limitless teams. And then the rest of the top five seems pretty straightforward to me, but I want to get your opinion too. Does anything stand out in the first half of the classification?
For me, there's a question mark over Mercedes race pace still, as always. We've seen this before with Mercedes, where can they sustain it for the whole weekend, I suppose, is the big question for me. Yes, they look strong now going into it, but actually, can they sustain it for qualifying and obviously the race itself? I worry about ride heights. It's a sprint weekend. We've seen it before that Mercedes feels low looking at it. I know Alex Albon was alluding to it a little bit. Whether or not that will mean, I don't think you'll be at risk from the sprint at all, but I think it may obviously mean a setup change potentially going into qualifying the race itself, which I suppose is probably the big concern for me and the big question mark is will they have to do something to that car between the end of the sprint race based on what they see? And then that could cause a problem and loss of pace going into qualifying in the race itself. So that's for me the big question mark over the Mercedes one, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it goes back to a really popular quote from Max Verstappen a few years ago, talking about the limited setup window for these sprint weekends. It's more likely you could possibly miss on the setup and lead to a disqualification. Of course, famously, we had Leclerc and Hamilton get disqualified at COTA in 2023. And then most recently this year in China, both Ferraris were disqualified. So there's definitely some risk that a front runner could have another DSQ penalty, but I'm hopeful that China was a cautionary tale so that at the very least they'll just back off and maybe have a performance dip rather than a full-blown disqualification.
Yeah, I mean, the chances of getting disqualified for the sprint is pretty low, to be honest, because you run with a third of the fuel. It's not as much of the race distance. So if anything, it just gives you an inkling that you could be in trouble if you carry on with that setup through. Obviously, the part for image changes that you change it. So I think you're right. I think that's probably my concern. I don't think it's more of a disqualification risk. It's more of a, can you change? Would they have to change the setup and lose that performance? And then will that allow the Ferraris potentially back into it? Is probably where my head's at with the concern for him at the moment.
There's a lot of questions in the chat too about no
Wow.
negative and some of the potential for rain this weekend. Our producer Greg is in Miami now and tells us it is currently raining, but I think it will dry up ahead of the sprint race. But I think all eyes are on the rain possibly during the Grand Prix tomorrow. Zach, I know you've been famously tracking the weather on your social media all week. Does the rain scare you today?
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like Japan all over again, where I just can't see no negative being used when we're still not 100% that it's even going to rain at any time. Because from looking at the weather forecast and everything, it's still at one point it was 70%, which was worrying me a little bit. But I don't think it's actually got to those highs ever since. So especially with no negative, you kind of have to go into it at knowing that it's going to rain, sort of like an Australia was sort of thing. And that's what pushes me off weather-wise. It's still too much of an unknown.
And for me, I don't mind a little bit of rain in Miami because Florida rain can come down really intensely for a little bit and then clear up and have a dry track. So I don't think it's going to be as impactful. But also, too, as someone who's considering Limitless, I don't mind the rain either because those top 5 or 6 drivers tend to handle themselves really well in wet conditions. Besides that one moment where Oscar Piastri went onto the grass in Australia, those front runners all held it together pretty well. And also with Miami being a purpose-built track, lots of great runoff areas. So I don't see a lot of people flying off the track and having DNFs due to the rain, like we saw in the first race.
Famous last words.
Famous, yes, this is going to be clipped and shoved down my throat in a couple of days, but we'll see.
I can't wait to clip that later.
I'd like to stress as well with the Limitless play for anyone, because I've had this question before. Looking at the sprint quali results, a lot of people have asked, can we mix in Ferrari when going for a Limitless play this weekend? And for me, I would say if you're too worried about any Mercedes DSQs or rain coming down, or just anything general about Mercedes pace, race pace, whatever, I would say then Miami Limitless probably isn't the one for you, because I think it's too much hoping that a Mercedes DSQs going for a Limitless team, whereas you could just wait till Imola and then do another Limitless, which would be completely fine. So I would say if you're thinking of potentially not fully trusting Mercedes this weekend, I would say push it back to Imola.
And for me, I think between Miami and Imola, these are some of our last really good chances to use this chip. As we get deeper and deeper into the spring in Europe, the odds of rain are going to get heavier and heavier. So I don't think the weather risk is going to change at all in the coming races. And then, like I talked about at the beginning of the week when we had Chris McCarthy on, as teams start bringing upgrade packages, as that flexi wing directive could potentially impact McLaren come Spain, I worry if the top 5 isn't as clear as it is now. So even if you don't want to use Limitless this week, I think Imola might be one of the last good chances for the next several weeks. So you have some options there. Zach, perhaps we can move over to the F1 Fantasy Tools sims, because there are some points I want to go over about how those points are starting to shake up. You can see the McLarens at the very top are 1 and 2 at the moment, as we probably expected. But what I found was interesting. Can you click on Antonelli, like his name?
Sure thing.
And then scroll and then at the bottom there, you can see what's buffering his points is there's about a 25% chance of driver of the day. Now, I know this sounds a little goofy because he was on pole yesterday and driver of the day is technically for tomorrow, but we've had some pretty weird patterns of driver of the day all season. So I would consider, is Kimi Antonelli going to get that award or not? Are those 10 points going to buffer your team? So for those of you considering Kimi or other drivers on your team this week, this really stood out to me.
Well, we know he got it in China as well, and especially on a race where he didn't really deserve it. If he then goes and does something and does deserve it in Miami, we know he can get it. So yeah, 100%. It's looking actually pretty good for something like that.
In the poll right now, there are about 100 of you that have responded. 2/3 are planning on using the Limitless chip this weekend. So if you want to go with the crowd, that's what we're doing. But also, I see a lot of our content creator peers are considering a regular lineup this week. So if you're in that 34% or so that aren't using it this week, you're not alone. There's some great company that they're going to roll that into a future race. Terry, I haven't asked anyone to like and subscribe yet, but This is a great time to do that. Make sure you hit like on this video so we can see how many of you are here and enjoying yourselves. And also the FanAmp channel is approaching 10,000 subscriptions. This is a channel that when we started it, I was subscriber number 1,000 2 years ago. So to see that growth because of all of you, it's such a proud moment for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And watch it only takes a click on there. And how many likes are we going for this week before we get some lineups?
Normally we settle for around 50, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm good for 50.
Go 50.
Let's see if we can do that.
There we go. That should be easy done. That's easy done.
Guys, I want to cover off a question from Brett in the chat because I wonder if we disagree on this because we haven't talked about this one before.
Ooh.
Why is Imola better than Monaco for the Limitless chip? I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it. I get the allure of Monaco because there's almost zero overtaking. So then that delta between your top 5 drivers and the midfield and bottom of the grid is going to be pretty pronounced. But what I worry about is if those top 5 drivers don't nail their qualifying lap and they get knocked out in Q2, they are parked there. There is no ability for them to gain those positions. Unlike this weekend, Miami does have 3 DRS zones, plenty of overtaking abilities as it's been in the top 10 circuits for overtakes ever since it came on the F1 calendar a few years ago. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous about Monaco. One red flag from one of the 5 rookies that are out there while you're timing your flying lap, and then all of a sudden your Limitless team's upside down. So that's why I prefer Imola over Monaco. But do you two agree, or is there another point I'm missing?
I tend to agree. Yeah, I think Monaco's pushing it too late, Limitless wise. I really do.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
could
I
be-
look at yeah. No, I mean, I look at it 2 options. One, I think Monaco's too late because people have got the budget, which I think the impact's going to be, not as fast on that one. The other thing I'm worried about is Imola. Is virtually every team is going to bring an update next time out at Imola. The start of the European one, literally everyone's going to bring one, which could shake it up. They're going to be doing a pre-Barcelona one because they want to test those front wings. They want to test what the FIA is saying with regards to new regulations. That could throw everything into the mix. So whilst I see the benefits of Imola, there's also that caveat of it is going to be upgrade central next time out. That's for sure, which could, if a team's only bringing them one major update, that could throw a right spanner into what's happening because they could just go, that's our only update. We're focusing on 2026. That's what we're going with. I would say the front wings, a lot of front wing testing going on at the moment. So there's a lot of talks, obviously, with the FIA to see what's legal, what's not from Spain. I know a few teams have brought some with them, but I think a lot of it is to just try and gauge from the FIA exactly what they can get away with post Barcelona, rather than actually putting them on the car and seeing what the performance is, which is the oldest trick in the book, isn't it? We're bringing it to the track when we get the FIA to have a look at it and decide whether it's legal or not, but don't actually put it anywhere near the car. We're seeing quite a bit of that at the moment. So,
Terry, a very important follow-up question from Hakan in the chat. Can you hit the gritty? I don't know if you have room in the shed to hit the gritty.
I was going to say it's more of a space constraint rather than not wanting to. If I'm honest, this Lego's starting to take over now. At some point we'd just be surrounded by Lego and just my head peeking through a Lego set.
If
We're really
Terry,
getting to the important questions.
if Terry finishes in the top
absolutely.
100 in the global league, I'm making him hit the gritty. We will post it everywhere.
Absolutely.
And also, if you haven't seen the video, there's some Miami Dolphins players teaching drivers how to hit the gritty, particularly the Oscar Piastri one. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So do take a look if you haven't already. Ooh, Daniel wants us to come to Brazil.
I
would
just
love
saw
to
that.
come to Brazil.
Oh,
We're there,
I'd love
Daniel.
that.
The last name's Portuguese, Daniel. I think I'd fit right in.
Terry, a question for you in the chat. Why have you chosen Alonso over Lawson?
Mainly because I feel Alonso's got much more chance of finishing the race than Lawson in a better position, pure and simple. Alonso, I feel, is in for a better weekend than what he's potentially had. So it was a case of Bortoletto, which I know the bottom can't sort of drop out of him and he can only go up, which kind of felt a bit wrong to put my last bit of money into that one. So I wanted to swap Jack Doom out. So I went with Alonso rather than one of the other two, to be honest. So purely based on Fernando and a bit of hope that he can get a good weekend.
And also, I was just checking out the F1 Fantasy Tools Sims. Looks like they have Alonso for 5 and Lawson for 0.8, which could be bad news for Lawson's price gain potential, whereas Alonso, he'd be right at the fringe of what he could need to go up in price a little bit. So
yeah,
that could be a
deal
breaker too.
Yeah, it was more of a budget budget choice as well. I felt like Alonso gave me a bit more chance of getting that money. So, yeah.
PFU, thank you very much for the kind words in the chat. Coming to us from Vienna. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Haken's flying me out. Perfect. He's assuming that I don't know how to do gritty yet, which is, that's just,
Maybe Hakon's going to teach you the gritty.
Maybe we're in there.
Zach, question in the chat: Antonelli or Leclerc as the final position for Limitless?
Wow.
And so that is the age-old question.
Yeah.
So both Antonelli and Leclerc, according to sportsbooks, are right next to each other in terms of likelihood to win the Grand Prix tomorrow. And certainly, like Terry said earlier in the show, if Mercedes have to raise their ride height and their race pace suffers and then they fall into the clutches of Ferrari, you might rather have Leclerc tomorrow. So you could potentially have the Mercedes constructor, George Russell and Charles Leclerc, and you sort of break up your luck a little bit. Or you could just go all in for Mercedes, run all three of them, and then hope that Antonelli, even if he falls back a little bit tomorrow, gets that driver of the day because of his accomplishments yesterday, and then that will get the points relatively even with Charles.
Yeah, it's for me when it comes down to Limitless. Well, to be fair, with most chips as well, I think you can't play a chip safe, and that's my thinking. And at the minute, I don't see where anything that would make me want to put Leclerc in my team for Limitless. And I think if you are on the fence on something like that, that's again where I would suggest just waiting till Imola, where potentially you have a more clear idea of if the Ferraris have better race pace or if the Mercedes do actually have poor race pace and drop back in qualifying, like in the race. So I do think it's Antonelli for me. That Mercedes looks brilliant, and I think just go for it.
One thing I'm hoping for is that we see Antonelli on a podium either today or tomorrow. There's a video that resurfaced. It's him and Bottas talking about how Antonelli's not old enough to drink in the US. And so he said his plan is if he gets a podium, he'll spray everybody and then hand the bottle to Valtteri to have a few sips off of it. So hopefully an Antonelli podium means a Bottas podium too.
Absolutely. You said Bortoleto or Alonso. I went for Alonso, just a personal choice, if that helps you. Like I say, purely because I just felt wrong going with a driver whose value couldn't decrease, and I felt like rather than sitting on the fence, I'd go with Alonso, to be honest. This is a good question: Piastri or Norris for the 2X?
I suspect Zach and I are going to have a duel on this because, Zach, you just said a moment ago, there's no safe way to play a chip. I would probably go safe and stick with the driver in form in Piastri. The sims, the betting lines, there is a slight difference between the two McLaren drivers that's opened up based on the two sessions we've seen so far. And so for me, I'd rather go with the bird in the hand with Piastri rather than hope Lando and the disco ball helmet have a resurgence this weekend. That's my pick.
I love it because I'm going to be coming in with the complete opposite argument as well. I will be going for Lando Norris 2 times, and it's more because sure, right now actually as well, I might suggest that if Mercedes actually throw a spanner in the works, it works out perfectly for me as well, because if Piastri and Norris end up on equalish points, that's fine as well. But where I'm sitting right now, I think it's worth the risk to go for Lando Norris, who most normal teams don't have, which could so greatly increase how good that Limitless play is. Because if Norris ends up being one of the top point scorers and outscores Piastri, then you're beating the rest of the Limitless teams, and you're also beating normal teams by a good amount of points, like 50 to 100 points potentially, if Lando Norris is the one to beat. Now, like I say, it is very risky because Piastri has looked better. But again, we've still got a long way to go in this weekend, and I like risking it on these chips. I really do.
And I think that segues nicely into Nuno's question in the chat. It's raining right now. It could rain tomorrow during the race. What's the logic behind going with it? For me, Nuno, it's that those top 5 or 6 drivers that you'd have in your Limitless lineups tend to do really well in the rain. Like, I trust Max Verstappen more than maybe any other driver on the grid in the rain. Both McLarens tend to be really strong there. So I think it's potentially a safer play. And then also with the rain in Florida, I think it could rain briefly and then stop. Whereas some of the rain we're going to see as we get into those European races could be pretty dooming for the whole weekend and a lot harder to plan for. So I'll take the easier to predict rain over the weekend long rain.
Oh, Simon has put a great question there. 2 drivers out of Ocon and Lawson versus Alonso and Bortoletto would you choose, with Limitless being planned in Imola?
So we're setting up for budget.
Zach's got an answer.
I genuinely do think if it's setting up for Limitless in Imola, you go for, where's the question gone? You would go for definitely Bortoletto and Alonso, because both of them can have pretty subpar weekends here and still be fine for Imola. Whereas Ocon, I like because he's got that Haas magic. However, if it doesn't work out this weekend for Ocon, you're kind of screwed for Imola. And again, for Lawson, I just don't trust Lawson as an asset. So that's why it leaves me with those 2.
I think it's a fine choice. Yeah. And it's good that you're thinking that way. Start building that budget so that when you use Limitless and Imola, you would then just continue to pile on that budget. Zach's also in a really good place to use Limitless this week after some really strong choices he made at Jeddah last time out. So it's really good to set yourself up for that.
Ready to go. We're getting a lot of team selection questions, and
how are the likes going?
We have hit over 50. We're on 60 odd, 65 last.
Oh, let's fire it up then.
Let's go for it. Yeah,
what they want.
Let's have a look.
All right.
Ooh.
This first team is from Young Heart. We hear from Young Heart almost every week. This is going against the grain.
With Verstappen, I just noticed that as well.
Going for some price gains. Looking at that.
Yeah, so it looks like Alpine doing Bortoletto and Hajar for the price gains, and then Piastri, Verstappen, McLaren for the points. It's very interesting.
I'm still not a fan of doing in the teams.
What worries me, and I think this answer is the same for anybody who's considering a B tier constructor this week. The gap between that and a top 2 or 3 constructor is pretty big. If you look at the expected points, McLaren 83, Mercedes 65, Red Bull 61, Ferrari 57, and then you go down a bit, Haas 15, Alpine 13, VCarb 13. So you've got to really get a ton of points off those differential drivers to make it all work. So I'd have to be really, really hungry for those cost cap gains to make that sort of risk on a sprint weekend. I'd recommend something like this a little bit more on a non-sprint weekend, but that's just my 2 cents.
No, I agree with that. Oh, we're still getting Piastri, McLaren, Haas. Interesting. It's
budget build.
Well, so it looks like the question above, unsure whether to keep this lineup because there's some concern about Alonso and Albon. Now, Albon has been probably the most consistent midfield driver on the grid. I think he has 4 double-digit finishes for fantasy points this year. So he's been looking pretty good. He's now in the top 8 for the sprint today. You could potentially get more points. But I think the point remains about having that second B-tier constructor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this person has the points to get out. You'd have to probably get out of Albon, maybe even Behrman too, to afford Mercedes down at the bottom.
It's just on a sprint race weekend. Yeah, you're going to really struggle on points if you don't have 2 A-tier constructors. And normally, like we mentioned, I'm all for still, if you need that budget building, you can go with a McLaren Haas sort of lineup. But it's just too much. There's a point where you still have to think about points, and sprint race weekends are definitely where I would draw the line and say, yeah, you've got to. Oh, first Limitless lineup.
We've got some bubbles going on here too. All right, so it looks like the lineup on the left is the previous lineup to see if they're set up to be okay for a Limitless team. And I agree, it's looking pretty good. I mean, Jack Doohan might be the only loose end, but otherwise, this team will totally all go up in value. So then if you pivot to Limitless, what's your move there?
Talking about the Jack Doohan as well, it's one of those things where it's like, Gasly, we know he's going down in value, which is an issue. But with Doohan, he's still got that chance to not be terrible. He's not the best asset, of course, but it's one of those ones where he doesn't have a DNF to his name, so he's still fine. Yeah, and then looking at the Limitless team, well, I think this goes into a bit of what I've been thinking about the Limitless, but I would put both those bubbles in if it was me.
I agree.
Yeah, I've not seen enough from Ferrari yet at all to convince me. I know they got the fast pit stops and they got those things going on, but I'm not entirely convinced that, you know, from what we're seeing, I don't think they've got it dialed in yet at all.
And just to speak on a point you made a moment ago, Zach, I have Gasly on my team. I would be looking at a 0.6 million loss if I ran Limitless this week, but I'm still considering it because I'm trying to think of what would perfect look like. Obviously, I'd rather be in your shoes, but can I set myself up with 7 gainers heading into a week where I can use Limitless that's dry and we know where the top 5 are? I think I might just have to settle for not perfect. So if I go with Limitless this week after having Gasly in my lineup, I'm going to take that little bit of a price hit, but might just be worth it for the Limitless points.
I'd like to show something about the Gasly thing as well that puts ease to some people who did have Gasly as well. Obviously, it's not looking great for him points wise, but on a sprint race weekend, I will say anything could happen. So if crazily he did get to that 20-point threshold, which we did see last year in Miami, it did happen with some BT drivers. Then minus 0.2 actually isn't terrible. So there still is a chance that it doesn't, not something terrible happens. So you're still in for something decent, hopefully, if it goes your way.
I saw something really encouraging in last year's Miami GP fantasy totals. If you look at just the sprint race, the 3rd highest scoring driver in F1 fantasy at the Miami sprint last year was Logan Sargent. Overtakes and positions gained. More than podium finishers Leclerc and Perez. So if it can happen to him, it can happen to Pierre Gasly too.
Oh, see, this is one of those questions, isn't it? Look at that, the bubbles around Liam Lawson. I'll probably go Ocon into that one.
Oh, okay. I think on a Miami standalone, I agree. It's are there any? And then, yeah, but that's the issue again, though. Likely Limitless in Imola. That's what scares me with Ocon hitting his price threshold. Because I think once he's over 10 million, he's going to struggle a lot to get up in value. Oh.
Here's some of Brian's lineups here. Swapped out Alonso for Lawson. At this point, if I decide to use Limitless, the lineup that carries through to Imola would be the one that includes Alonso.
Yes.
No.
Wait, no.
Wait, it would
swap.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at Miami.
Yeah, it would revert back, wouldn't it? If you do Limitless.
The team that carry. Okay, so let's walk through this. If you make any transfers now and use the Limitless chip, your team will revert back to whatever it was at Jeddah and ignore those. If you make the transfer of Alonso out and Lawson in, run a regular lineup, and then go to Limitless next week, you would have the lineup you finished Miami with, which would be awesome. It sounds like an exam question. It's if a train leaves Los Angeles 30 miles an hour. But we got
waiting for that. Yeah.
Like I would say
press A.
Is it now time to show some of our teams?
Let's do the big reveal. Let's do it. I have.
Who wants to go first?
You can send me out there first. It's fine.
Okay. Let me get yours ready.
I've been the biggest wild card of the group heading into today. We figured Zach was probably using Limitless. Terry was definitely not. We've got content creators all over the place that are in between using it or not. And I have done it. And not only have I done it, I've done it with triple Mercedes because I want that differential with Antonelli. If he gets driver of the day and just hangs in there tomorrow, I think this could be a good finish for him. I know there's been a lot of bad vibes in the chat, hoping that Mercedes doesn't get disqualified, but I'm hopeful they just raise that ride height, play by the rules, and then they'll just take a little bit of a dip tomorrow, but still finish the race and get their points. As for the 2X driver, sticking with Oscar Piastri as a differential to Zach, but then also I think he's just a tiny bit safer But if Lando gets the fastest lap tomorrow, that undoes everything. So I think it's really a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. There is literally only... Well, actually, I'm not going to reveal any secrets.
Do we know that Yuki Tsunoda starting from the pit lane?
I did not
That
know
if that impacts on anyone's decision?
I don't know if it does a whole lot because Yuki qualified P18. So it's just a matter of him overtaking Bortoletto and possibly Behrman, depending on how far up the road he gets. So maybe an extra overtake or two. I don't think with this price, any of us were playing Yuki this week, but I know a few of you are considering the Red Bull constructor because Max really good in the rain. Yuki with the overtakes, maybe that puts them into the picture for you.
He's had a setup change, which is quite interesting. Yeah, so they clearly done something to the Red Bull because it's part for make additions, which is why he's from pit lane. So they quite clearly did something. I'm just trying to find out what it is that Yuki Tsunoda has actually changed. There are tents going up on the grid, by the way, which means it's definitely still raining. Just to throw that one into everybody's mix.
It's going to be close, isn't it?
So they're clearly not impressed with the weather in Miami. You know.
I feel like it might be a little bit delusional, but I'm still holding on to that. If it does rain, it's harder to overtake, making Limitless better.
That's where I'm at too. Zach, who's the next lineup we want to reveal? Do we want to do another lineup out of the three of us, or go back to the listeners?
You can do mine. I put mine up, I think. So
yeah,
I think.
We'll go through all of ours. Hang on, I'll get over to. Let me get it up. What has Terry gone for?
Not very excited, I'm afraid to say. It was what was on the screen. Like I said, I've gone for Alonso. That's the only change that I made, to be honest, after reverting back from obviously using Limitless. So yeah, budget gain is the aim for this week, as well as trying to make sure that I keep some points in the bag and actually make sure I don't lose too much traction on everybody else. So that's the aim in the game with that one.
And Terry's now inside the top. What is it? 3,000, 4,000? Looking really good.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. I'll screenshot that one. You heard
that. No, I like this team. This is probably what I would have gone for if I wasn't using Limitless. I did like Alonso.
We don't agree on much, but we agree on this.
Right, I'll get my one up then. It should be live. There it is.
Radio Paddock F1.
Are you seeing that the
Thank you for fighting for us?
Are you seeing that Leclerc's hit the wall?
When?
Like
what?
on the installation lap?
I believe so.
Are they on slicks trying to get to the starting area and it's still wet? What's the tire conditions like at the minute?
That's what I'm trying to look at now.
Oh.
Boy, we've got a long way. Remember at the beginning of the week, we were talking about Ferrari constructor as the play for this weekend. It's been a very interesting 48 hours.
No. Did he just tap it?
I'm trying to find it. Hold on. Keep talking to me.
Anyway, no. With my team,
this is the downside of doing a live stream right before they go to the grid, isn't it?
The chat is saying Leclerc might be out of the sprint.
Oh, that could be interesting. No, yeah. So with my Limitless, it still is. I'm just risking it with the 2 times on Norris, but it's the exact same sort of process that Adam's sort of thinking as well. But with all of this rain,
he's in trouble. By the way, he is in trouble. He's hit the wall, and
oh my god, people are saying puncture.
He's not looking good, honestly.
Oh my god, is that? No way is that.
I'm being genuine. He's the soaking track has brought Leclerc out
is nuts.
on his way to the grid, and he slides into the wall.
Has someone done a wellness check on Matt Gallagher? Is he watching this?
and he's parked up. He's gone. He's out the car.
Oh my gosh! Well, there you go, everyone. That's instantly. Do not bring in Ferrari. Or Leclerc.
You
know how we're talking about Antonelli or Leclerc? Definitely Antonelli now.
Right then, that's made it easier. Right then, everyone just go and change the lineup, go for Kimi Antonelli, and take off take him Mercedes. Right.
So we haven't spelled this out. If he's already on the sprint grid, This is looking to be a DNS and a -20 for Leclerc and Ferrari. Just to spell that out to anybody who is trying to understand the impact of it. Different.
Yeah.
Wesley's like, now that we've seen that, what are your thoughts on no negative?
Oh
Well,
God!
I'm seeing a picture of Charles Leclerc's car parked up on the sides of the track without Charles Leclerc in it, basically. To just give you some context. Now, as he can't get to the grid, I'm pretty sure that he's out, because he's not making it under his own steam. So therefore, he's in trouble.
Shashank said he just aquaplanes on the.
But if
straight
he's
into the wall.
off, if
Crazy.
it's different when Hungary and Max had that front suspension problem because he carried on, made it back to the grid, and they could repair it obviously on the grid. Charles hasn't made it to the grid, so if I remember rightly, because he would need help to get him off there, then actually there's a big problem on that. Behrman spun as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. So actually, that helps out with the Limitless play.
Yeah.
We've all got Behrman on our team, so we don't want to have that. It really is one of those things at the minute. No negatives, looking actually quite nice at the minute. I mean, on our last poll, 23% of people are now saying that they like the idea of no negative.
But again,
I bet they are.
But that's the thing. I'm still in this. I don't know if it is delusion. It could be smart. It's one or the other. We'll find out in a minute. But if our Limitless team does do all right, and bear in mind, we have, well, for a lot of people, especially in mine, I had Hajar and Behrman in my team. They're probably more likely to get a DNF than any of my Limitless drivers. Touch wood.
I'm not gonna.
My word.
So we'll see what happens.
Wow. So we've got.
I'm at a loss of what to do now. So okay, I just had to double and triple check. There's absolutely no Ferrari coverage in my Limitless team. Zach, should we go back through? Are there any lineups we haven't covered yet? Maybe we muscle.
Oh yeah, we've still got a few. Yeah,
maybe you and I handle lineup duty. Terry will just be
refreshing my feed
to see who is showing up to the starting grid here.
I'll tell you who's in the wall and who's made it to the grid. Should we go with that one?
Yeah, please do.
Actually, sorry. Before we actually talk about this lineup right here, yes. Does no negative or remove budget or only protects points? It only protects points. So yes, you'll get away scot-free points wise, but if anyone gets a DNF, that's still a -0.6, -0.3 coming your way most likely.
Yeah, so you won't take the negative points, but when they calculate the 3-race average, it will be the raw score of the driver that's calculated.
Yeah. But team selection wise, coming back to the Limitless, for anyone who needs a Limitless team, this is 100% now, from hearing all of this, the one I would go for. Now, still a toss-up between who you put the 2 times on. I like the risk of Lando. However, Oscar, like Adam said, is the safe option. So it really depends on just how much you want to risk it. For me, I quite like doing that. But I very much like this.
We're hearing that F1 TV is reporting potentially delayed start.
Yeah, wow. So we look at delayed start. Sergio says about the weather forecast for tomorrow. It's got thunderstorms in it, which, as we know, when they hit Miami, are pretty torrential. So it's not forecast rain as such. It's forecast literally thunderstorms in the afternoon. It's not really clear when, but that's what the current forecast is for tomorrow. So actually, knowing what it's going to do, that's...
Can I try something for a second as well? So Elliot's asked in the chat, can I still apply the no negative chip despite having already confirmed my team for this weekend? So I want to try and see something because for science, if I head over to my F1 fantasy, let me try and get the
as long as you haven't locked in a different chip already, you should be able to apply no negative.
Yeah, I was just there. I think as long as you've not used a chip already, isn't it?
You've got
I want to see if potentially that is also the case. If you, because I know sometimes you can choose a Limitless team. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. If you press continue, it would lock in the Limitless, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're
locked in with that.
Yeah, if you've done Limitless, that's it. You can't do anything with it. You've decided to use it, that's it. If you've not used any other chips but still locked in your team, let's try. Shall I play no negative? let's see if it works.
I'm trying to think of a permutation of Final Fix in my head that would work. Like potentially if Leclerc starts at the back of the grid tomorrow because he's taking new parts or something. Like if he wrecks a gearbox, for example, needs to take that tonight. There's another Parc Ferme, so maybe he doesn't. It's not a penalty.
There you go. You can use the no negative if you've made a transfer but not used any of the chips.
Okay, perfect.
So there's your
this
answer.
is-
It's giving me the option to still use final fix, extra DRS, or no negative, or autopilot. So yeah, because I've not used any chips, even if you made the transfers, you can still use it. I'm half tempted to press that button now that I'm sat here with it on there.
This is a question I've got just in general because I don't actually know this. So if we get a delayed start, would they delay the deadline of F1 Fantasy, or would they just keep it?
I
I
don't
don't
think
think they do.
I don't think it's that intelligent that
No.
it would wait until the start of the race. I think it's probably built to
Just
55
lock
minutes
in.
faster
Yeah,
at the top
I
of the
think
hour.
it's like an auto locked. To be honest.
I would absolutely not tempt fate with that.
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't want to leave it that late and try it. From a personal point of view, I think the way the game's set up, it'd be automated to lock it in and go. Come cut off time. That's it.
But here we go again. Hacken's put in the chat: is Limitless stronger now? Well, it's one of those things that we've been like spewing out this whole hour. Where yes, it could be stronger, but it's also now 10 times riskier. So just beware of that.
Right.
I see Andrew's in the chat, the 2024 champ. Hey, Andrew. For those of you that follow along, Porsche F1, the runner-up last season, is at this race with his Champions Club
Oh, wow.
package. So I'm excited to see all of the pictures. He's already taken a few. He'd said yesterday that he had a few words with Lawrence Barretto to talk about his post-FP2 sims. So congratulations. Excited to see Andrew's pictures from when he goes to his race with his Paddock Club passes.
Okay. Right. So Charles Leclerc is officially out of the sprint. So his tent's being packed up.
There you go.
He's now out. So that one is definitely confirmed. So they're packing up his grid spot, and that's it. So Charles Leclerc is definitely out of the sprint.
That makes our Limitless life very easy.
Yeah. So if you have got a Ferrari or Charles Leclerc, I suggest you head on over to the app now quickly and move it. Kevin, I've actually just played the no negative.
Of course you did.
So talking about the team on the screen right now.
Yes. I'm seeing Aqua playing in. I'm seeing Lewis Hamilton complaining that he's on Inters. I'm seeing absolute chaos on this grid so far. The radio messages are absolutely bonkers. So yeah. So I'm going with a no negative.
It's a question.
How
in the
it
chat
all changes.
Woo, throw it in there.
Can you cancel a chip before the deadline after initially selecting it? So there's two steps here. You can select a chip. Like let's say you selected Limitless. You can hit the button, pick a Limitless team, and then go back from that. But once you hit the save button, then the chip is locked in and there's no going back.
Yeah. So once you've confirmed it, it comes out that warning thing, doesn't it? Say this is what you're going to do. Confirm it. Once you've done that, unfortunately not. Does it count as an overtake if the player is not in the sprint but behind game paces? No, because it'd be a do not start winning, so he'd be just not there.
Yeah, he won't have a classification.
I can't remember if we moved up or not. There was a lot of confusion over this last year, wasn't there? So I can't remember the ruling. They did change it on this one, whether everyone moves up or not.
Or
if it's left empty. Yeah, I can't remember what they changed it to be honest, because they did make a change to it on that one. So.
So Leclerc lined up E6. It would be his teammate Hamilton, Alex Albon, Hadjar. That if they needed to leave a grid box open, they could be caught out about it. Could lead to a penalty if they mess that up.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more of the logistics behind it. I can't remember what the FIA ruled on whether or not we leave it empty or not, because there was confusion in Brazil, wasn't there, with everyone shifting up and back. And I know they changed the rule on it, so I can't remember what they changed it to. They did make it a lot more simpler, but which way they went, I don't know. So it's either going to be empty or everyone's going to move up one, basically. It's going to be one or the other.
Rick in the chat says, Lewis beats Charles on another sprint race. Maybe. He's got to finish to beat him.
Oh, gosh.
Well, should we not use Limitless then, Jerry said? If you've not used it already, I'd say it's probably a worthy thought not to, potentially. from a personal point of view. If you've not locked it in, I mean, if you've locked it in, you're kind of playing it, and to be honest about it, you're in it now. So, but if haven't,
I've never been more nervous after locking in the Limitless than before. But I will say, just for anybody who's nervous that's already played it, 2 years ago, I had the double disqualification, and that hit my constructor too. So I had 3 disqualifications in 2023 using Limitless. Last year, I used it in Miami, and everybody remembers Lando won that race, but very few people remembered he DNF'd the sprint. So I've had some bad luck every year I use the Limitless chip, and have still finished in the top 0.5% in the world. So we can recover from any number of things that happen to us if you use the Limitless chip and it goes sideways. So still a long season. This week is the 25% mark, so still 3/4 of the year left to
go.
Wow.
Who would have thought no negative?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm just looking at it now. So, latest is Lewis Hamilton's having a front axle change of some sort while he's on the grid. Charles Leclerc's definitely out.
That sounds bold.
It does. It is wet. It is really, really bad there, to be fair, looking at it.
I would say, actually, yeah, the only issue with now with Limitless, it's not too much of an issue, but basically all of the normal teams, all of the B tier drivers have got +1 point for position gained, which is not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, this no negative one. It is a personal thing. I mean, they will wait till the weather subsides a bit. They won't start it in literally pouring conditions. We know they don't like doing that. They'd rather delay the start and then put it on that one. They can, of course, move qualifying if they have to. So they can delay everything and wait for the weather to clear up. You can go as early as Sunday morning with qualifying if you had to. So there's no reason why they couldn't wait for it to clear up before they actually start the sprint race, if that's what they're looking at doing. But yeah, so I think with regards to using no negative, I think it's one of those where it's what you feel comfortable with. I'll say these conditions are looking treacherous for today, but will they be the same tomorrow? Who knows? I mean, if we see the same with the thunderstorms, if that's what's hit Miami now, there's potential that actually it's probably not a bad chip to play, because if it happens during the race, then all chaos could just break loose, couldn't it?
Just tackling some of the questions in the chat to Magic. The latest update is Leclerc will not start for the sprint race, so that'd be a DNS and -20 for him and Ferrari. And then to David Limitless, who would be your 2x Piastri, Lando, or Antonelli? I think it's got to be a McLaren driver just based on pure pace and their ability to podium both today and tomorrow. With Mercedes, it's unclear what their long pace will look like in the Grand Prix. So Zach and I are divided on that.
I'm going to throw one in there. Would you not go Max?
Oh, yeah, we do know what he's like.
And could he get the sentimental driver of the day because he's a new dad?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at a 2x now thinking, actually, could Max be a secret 2x as a differential?
To be fair, even if I didn't put 2 times on him, that would work out perfectly if no one has Verstappen in the normal teams, and then just having Verstappen in a Limitless team. That's another great thing. It's sort of what happened in Jeddah with Norris getting the fastest lap, and Verstappen did get driver of the day, didn't he? I think with both of them getting extra points, it made the Limitless even stronger because no one obviously had those 2 drivers in any normal teams.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think we're seeing delayed start from what I can see, or are we? I'm not seeing any confirmation that we're delaying it. So
while we get more information on that, it would be a -20 for the Ferrari constructor with the Leclerc DNS. -30 is only for disqualification, so keep your fingers and toes crossed for Lewis that he's totally legal this week. Terry's Twitter is Widzy3.
You don't ask.
The only non-Coffee Corner motorsport.
It is. It was. Terry's because it's been lying around longer than Coffee Corner's been around.
See, I think this is one of the first weekends where we all have different opinions on what to do, because Christopher's now just asked to clarify, if you haven't used Limitless, would you rather use no negative? And I think, again, probably just because I'm in that boat, I still think Limitless could be strong, and I'm happy with that. But Terry, you're all aboard no negative now, correct?
I think so. If you've not played Limitless, I think that the risk of it now is certainly out there. Someone, if we're seeing these conditions like we are, then actually is it better to save that chip going on the back of what you said about there's potentially Imola coming up, obviously even Monaco to use it if you want to go that far. So if you haven't hit that button, so yeah, I mean, Leapfrog is the same as me. He's paid no negative. I'm absolutely on board with that one. I can see this being just one of those crazy condition races similar to Australia where we could just see all carnage. That middle section is unforgiving. That track part, inside the stadium sort of area, underneath the underpass there, that part is pretty unforgiving. We even saw like Gasly go into it during sprint qualifying. So there's those factors to play into it as well. You think of that chicane they've got in there, that really tight chicane in there with all of the cars going in there on the first couple of laps. That just spells trouble for me. Just from that point of view. So yeah.
Here's another thing as well. If they don't delay the start, could we see a safety car start? And then with the sprint race being so short already,
yeah,
less risk for Antonelli that he wouldn't get taken off the line by a faster reaction, and then he could possibly get some clear air and run away with it because of the short distance.
Well, yeah, I mean, is the pressure going to be on them to get it done so they get into qualifying? So will we have like a Belgium sort of scenario where we do X amount of laps that be on the safety car with nothing going on? So yeah, so Joe's using no negative and going for Limitless for Imola. Well, so I see Max, David. I assume David's thinking the same as well. I'm thinking Max times 2 interesting. I just feel there isn't a better driver in the wet than Max. But then, are you going to get it wet tomorrow? And are you still going to get that situation again? Because in the dry, Red Bull isn't the strongest car, and Max probably isn't the strongest driver with that dry setup in terms of getting the win. I think the McLarens will be stronger in the dry over Max. But yeah.
Final few minutes.
Right.
It's interesting. The number 1 and 2 players in the world from last year are one after another on my Twitter feed, both using no negative.
See,
Porsche F1 going McLaren Red Bull as constructors. Andrew going McLaren Mercedes.
I mean, that's a bold move.
Nice differential.
Pit lane start. Yeah, it was as well potentially getting some gains. Pit stops. Just very quickly, I've got a pit stop update actually, which might be quite interesting. We've seen obviously Ferrari doing well. We've seen Red Bull struggling. Did you know that Red Bull for the first time this year are rotating their pit staff out? It's the first time ever because of the demands on the staff. So they haven't got the same pit crew every single week, which is something they've never done before. It's new for this season. So that's going to be quite interesting with regards to fancy and pit stops.
Terry, you met Callum Nicholas about a week or so ago. Did you ask him why Red Bull's pit stops are rubbish now that he's not in the crew anymore?
Because he said they're rotating the staff out. But no, he just said that they're actually still good, but obviously the rest have caught up and got good. But he talks quite a lot about Max, obviously. So he talks quite a lot about Max playing engine settings down all the time in free practice, which is something we've alluded to on here quite a lot. He talks about that happening all the time. Max doesn't turn it up until literally qualifying. So when we talk about those practice times, when we say that Max has got his engine turned down, he actually confirmed that is the case. That Max just doesn't turn the engine up, even when he's asked to. He doesn't like doing it, so he likes to keep it for qualifying, which was a really interesting sort of conversation on it.
Here's a little thing. Yeah, have you seen the same thing, Adam?
Yeah, Terry, we need to put you to work. We're seeing in the chat Piastri floor issues.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 7 minutes to figure out Piastri floor issues before I totally start going.
Have you gone over something?
I don't know. We've just seen Bassam in the chat. Apparently, Piastri floor issues with 3 question marks, which is what worries me. Bassam, you'd better not be having us on here.
Look, I can't see anything yet.
That's a good way to put everybody in a panic. Yeah, because everyone who's locked in is Piastri's or 2X drivers, so now you've officially freaked everyone out. Yeah, looking through the other content creators now, there's a big pivot. Rob's going no negative, Rain's going no negative.
Wow. Oh, please work out. This could literally be such a make or break point now.
Absolutely. I mean, if you play it and it pays off, then actually,
I love risking it for a chocolate biscuit though. So this is Oh, I'm hyped now. I'm really excited for this.
Right, so the rain's clearing up, which is the good news. I'm not seeing a lot about Piastri's floor, to be honest,
Oh, thank goodness.
or nothing that's being flagged.
We'll take that then. We'll take that.
If you have any other questions, we've got 5 minutes left. Feel free to lock them in. We never forget to plug the FanAmp picks for this week. Be sure to head over to the FanAmp app, lock in your picks for the sprint race, for qualifying, for the Grand Prix. Compete against the three of us because it's the only thing I'm beating Terry in consistently, week in and week out.
Yeah. What picks did we have this week? Let's quickly go through them before we go. We said this would be a chaos stream, didn't we? So
we do.
Apologies, it's a chaos.
It looks
stream.
like we are all looking good on this podium. Maybe a little flip flop with the McLaren drivers.
Ooh.
But we agree a McLaren 1-2 one way or another, with Kick Sauber getting out the earliest. Red or yellow flags looking silly for me to say none now in light of what we've seen the last 15 minutes.
Same.
But I've locked it in.
So formation lap is going to be behind the safety car, which has been confirmed. So it does look like we're going to get a rolling start potentially, at least. So yeah, formation lap's going to be done behind the safety car. Is the latest one.
I could do with half this race being behind a safety car. It'd be boring to watch, but my word.
Well, the big question now is: do you go for wets or do you go for intermediates? What do you do with this one as well? So even that in itself is going to be a challenge because the track is dry and I think it's easing off. So yeah,
it'd be very interesting to see if you get that tire strategy right and the drivers in front of you have gotten it wrong. You could have a midfield driver gain 7-8 positions in this race.
Absolutely, especially if it dries. Yeah, if we start off in the wet and then it dries off. Everyone's saying about floor issues, but I'm not seeing it.
It sounded like something came up on Rob's stream, but I don't see it. I don't see anything anywhere either. So hopefully,
is it just like one person go around all of the fantasy live streams?
Yeah,
and just trying to scare us.
Like,
that'd actually be really funny. I don't mind it. Hajar or Alonso? Of all the comparisons with Alonso, I think Hajar would win that one for me. I think the likelihood of gaining 0.6 million. I like
honest,
what Racing Bulls are doing.
Hajar was someone I didn't want to bring out of my team at all. He was like a no brainer thing.
Red Bull versus Mercedes. I've seen some people go either way on it now. A lot of trust in Max Verstappen in the rain. Yuki starting from the pit lane in what is already a really messy race. So potentially Red Bull. But I think right now, Mercedes, we can't doubt their race pace. Antonelli, besides binning it on his very first lap in a Mercedes car, is really, really good at keeping it on the track. And this has gone all the way back through his junior series too. He takes good care of the car. So I do like Mercedes this week over.
Right. So before we go, Lewis Hamilton is starting on a wet tyre. We've got a 70% chance of rain for the sprint race itself. But it is drying up currently, is what I've got so far.
And still no stuff on the floor.
I'm seeing no issues for all the others at the moment. Or certainly nothing that's ringing alarm bells.
So it sounds like a huge differential from Lewis starting a little bit back. I imagine the rest of the drivers are starting on inters. So he thinks if there's heavy rain again, he can catch everybody. If they do a pit stop for full wets, he would just jump up.
I think Lewis has just swapped because I'm seeing now that everyone's on inters apart from Carlos Sainz, who's gone on full wets.
I think to be fair for him, worth risking it in that position he's in. But everyone, make sure 1 minute to go. Lock in your teams. Are you using no negative? Are you using Limitless? You know me and Adam are using Limitless. Terry's now on that no negative.
I'm no negative. We'd like to apologise for just absolute bonkers stream with absolutely no organisation whatsoever. But yeah, that's the joy of live streaming, and hopefully we might have saved some people with Charles Leclerc and Ferrari in terms of their Limitless team. So if anything, hopefully that you've managed to swap them out by now. So fingers crossed. If you were
4 B-tier drivers, double Haas, Lonzo, Hajar, Lawson, any 4 of those that you can afford.
And then with the 2 times on Max, I would say if it does carry on raining, it's not a bad shout for a differential. But I would say it has to be wet sessions. If it doesn't end up raining for the qualifying or the race, whatnot, then it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah, I think if it rains again tomorrow, then yeah. So Rick says that they're putting full wets on Lewis's car now. I mean, it is Ferrari. He's probably on a mixture. Let's be honest about it.
Two in the front, two in the back.
Probably two on the front. Probably hedging his bets. You know, Plan B, Plan C. What is it Ferrari are going for? They can't decide.
Plan Q.
Yeah.
All right,
That is it, everyone.
We are at the
It's
top of the
locked.
hour. Good luck this week. We've got a week off to cry or celebrate, depending on what happens. Thank you all so very much for joining us today and living the madness with us. Zach and I will be back to preview Imola in just another week. So looking forward to seeing you all then.
Goodbye, everyone.
Good luck, everyone.